Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Matt Fatemi. In our next segment here, we're going to take a look at the Pistons New York Knicks game last night, game 2 of this series, officially tied at 1-1 apiece as the Pistons took down the Knicks 100-94. All around great game. I Madison Square Garden was absolutely rocking with fans, especially with a team that was down 13 points midway through the third quarter, for the Knicks to come back against the Pistons and almost win this game. The Madison Square Garden was absolutely electric last night, and we're going to take a look at both sides of that coin with how the Pistons handled it and how the New York Knicks fed off of that energy and continued to perform at a high level. But before I move any further, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions that come in during the show, so to ensure that your question gets read on air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net. This puts your question at the top of the list so that I see it, and it also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. Now, I've said it before, you guys really help us build our show. Whatever we do good, please let us know. Whatever we can work on, please let us know, because whatever you guys want to hear, we want to talk about. So you guys play a big role in this show, and everything is greatly appreciated across the board. But getting right back into it here, the Pistons took out the Knicks last night, and honestly, what was not only Cade Cunningham's first playoff win, but this was the first Pistons playoff win since 2008. A 15-game losing streak in the playoffs officially snapped for this Pistons team, and beyond well-deserved. Cade Cunningham having an absolute masterclass of a game, going off for 33 points and 12 rebounds. He was a dominant force, finishing with over 20 points before halftime. He was a dominant force in this game, and I've said it before, Cade Cunningham was already morphing into the role of the top offensive threat, leading this team into the playoffs, being the number one threat, being a reliable scorer, filling those shoes, which honestly, for a young player like Cade in his third season, are not the easiest shoes to fill. But he's done it, and he's done it well down the stretch here. On the other side, it was Jalen Brunson with 37 points. Mikal Bridges with 19 points. He was a point that I tried to hit home yesterday when I was previewing this series, that Mikal Bridges had to have a better performance in Game 2 than he did in Game 1 if they wanted to hold off the Pistons again. I believe in Game 1 he had about 8 points, only taking about, I believe he only took 10 shots. So I think he finished with 12 points. He only took 10 shots. This time around, taking 18 shots, finishing with 19 points. That's what you really expect from Mikal Bridges. More offensive production out of him, and that's what he delivered on. Jalen Brunson down the stretch here. The Pistons being up 90-78 to close the third quarter. Playing at a very high level. And it was the Pistons that clawed back into this game, and it can't be sliced any other way. If it wasn't for Jalen Brunson's performance down the stretch, being able to get to the free throw line, being able to spread the basketball to Mikal Bridges, to Josh Hart, to Karl Anthony Towns, this game would not have ended as close as it was. And it would not. A lot of the Knicks' comeback has to be attributed to the performance of Jalen Brunson down the stretch. So major props to him. But the player of this game, I would say it's two players. First off, Jalen Duren. Another point I tried to hit home. If the Pistons were going to win this game, he needed to perform better than he did in Game 1. Only finishing with about 6 points, 7 rebounds, a little bit of a below average performance from him. Normally we see him around 9 and 10, 10 and 11, 10 and 10, 10 points, 10 rebounds. That's what you really expect out of him. A double-double machine, using his height, using his physicality, his weight to his advantage, playing bully ball on the post. That's what you expect out of Jalen Duren, and that's how he's performed all season long. So we knew I knew game 1 was a little bit of an anomaly. Game 2, he went above and beyond. He went above his average, going 12 and 13, and 12 those 12 points, especially down the stretch, with a timely dunk to put the Pistons up 2 points with under a minute to play. That's a Jalen Duren we remember, using his physicality, using his height, um, as an absolute cheat code, because it is. Who's going to stop Jalen Duren outside of maybe a Jokic, an Ivica Zubac, an Anthony Davis? It has to be one of the top premier centers in this league to take out a physical phenom like Jalen Duren. And Karl-Anthony Towns was not up to that challenge, really. He was only finishing with 10.6 rebounds, shooting 5 of 11 from the field, 0 and 2 from three-point range, 0 offensive rebounds. That's more of what you that's the difference. That's a difference Jalen Duren can be in a game, especially for a player like Karl-Anthony Towns, who is a physical, who can be very physical, who can take over games with his height, with his shooting specifically. If you let him get too much space, if he can get his shot going, that could be a difference maker in games. But Jalen Duren taking care of that assignment, and I mentioned it last show. If the Pistons were going to win this game, Jalen Duren needed to play at a better clip, and he did, absolutely. So major props to him. My last player I want to point out that I want to give a lot of credit to before I move forward to previewing Game 3 and what could be next for these two teams is Dennis Schröder. Dennis Schröder is a player that has bounced around the league in a midseason trade, traded to the Pistons from the Brooklyn Nets. A player that's, like I said, bounced around the league, has not gotten a lot of love, has been kind of in an NBA carousel, just floating around different teams year by year, or almost year by year, either 2 years or year by year. Finishing with 20 points in this game and hitting an absolute crucial three-pointer, a three-pointer that you expect a Cade Cunningham to shoot or a Malik Beasley with with time winding down on the shot clock. Dennis Schröder taking an absolute monster three-pointer with under 30 seconds to play in a tie game situation, absolutely lacing it, and that was about the game. I believe there was about 15 seconds. No. This was before the 15-second mark. I believe there was about 40 seconds left. There was under a minute to play regardless. It was either 40 or 30 seconds to play, and Schröder just tried to get the ball out of his hands, get it to Cade, but he had the open shot. He had the best, highest percentage shot to take in a tie game situation, and he didn't hesitate. He didn't hesitate and absolutely laced it. So, major props to Dennis Schröder as he's continued to perform down the stretch here for this Detroit Pistons team. And yeah, unbelievable performance from him, and we look to see if he can continue to perform in Game 3. But moving forward in this series, switching gears over to Detroit, this is going to be interesting for the New York Knicks. We haven't seen them. I've said it before on this show as well. This New York Knicks team is not the same team over the last 2 years that has been the gritty, tough team down the stretch. Using their toughness, making games dirty, not dirty, but just making them messy games, making them scrappy, playing spoiler most of the time. That is the New York Knicks teams of 2021 to 2024. In 2025, this New York Knicks team is just built on more finesse, more shooting, more style, more of a flashy team. And where I'm going with this is I just don't think that flashy nature or its flashy style of a team is going to work this weekend or going to games 3 and 4 in Detroit. Number one, the Detroit Pistons ownership group has teamed up with Ticketmaster and has announced that they're not allowing anybody outside of the Detroit, Michigan area or Indiana area, that whole upper area, north central part of America, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin. They're not letting anybody outside of those 4 states buy tickets to this game. They did use the excuse that this is like a once in a lifetime moment for a lot of Pistons fans, and it's been such a long drought that they don't want it spoiled or watered out by New York Knicks fans. But at the same time, that gives an unbelievable advantage to the Pistons. A traveling fan base like the New York Knicks not being able to go to Detroit to root on their team, not being able to kind of try and try and even out the crowd, which this New York Knicks team does travel. Their fan base absolutely travels. It's going to be interesting to see how, first of all, how Detroit's able to feed off of that energy, because they just played 2 hostile games in Madison Square Garden in New York and was able to take one of them. That not only boosts their confidence, but now going into Detroit and in their home fan base, in front of their home crowd, it's going to be really interesting to see not only how the Pistons are able to feed off of it, but how the Knicks are able to respond to it and being able to keep up with the Pistons. I would not be shocked if the Pistons blow out the Knicks in Game 3, specifically. With how I don't want to say it, but I guess how rowdy this Pistons crowd is going to be. This Pistons fan base has been waiting since 2008 to win a playoff game. They've been waiting. They haven't seen a team this competitive. I haven't seen a Pistons team this competitive since I was born in 2003, when they won the championship in 2004 with Joe Dumars and Ben Wallace. These guys, they haven't seen legit Detroit Pistons basketball in the postseason since 2008. And with a young group like this, they're going to be out and frolicking in the streets. They're going to be out and about, making their presence known in this game. So yeah, this is major props to Detroit Pistons for knocking off the Knicks, a young team going into Game 2, not seeing their home floor yet, and stealing Game 2, evening this series, bringing the momentum to their side of the court, as they now have home court advantage. But it's going to be really interesting to see how the Knicks are able to respond in both Games 3 and Game 4. I really think the Pistons are going to take a 2-1 lead in Game 3. That's my prediction. I'm much more confident in that take than I was in the Lakers-Timberwolves take. But I think Game 4 is going to be the game circled for both of these teams. You've seen Detroit at home. You've seen New York at home. You've seen New York on the road. If they fall down 3-1 in this series is over. How are the New York Knicks going to respond if they lose Game 3? I believe they play on Thursday night. They don't play tomorrow. So, yeah, that's my take on it. But I'm going to take another short break. Coming up next, we're going to take a look at the Clippers game last night against the Denver Nuggets. That was another unbelievable game. We're going to take a look at both sides of that game coming up next.